Hi, Shali.
Namaste, Legtsok. Tashdele.
Tashdele.
Tarshidele, Venerable Legtsok.
Sage. Tashdele sage. Chidudele.
Tashdele, Tashdele.
Andy, where are you? You're in a different place.
I'm at my cousin's house, so spending some time with her. She wasn't keeping well, so my cousin's studying here in Bangalore. So
Okay.
I'm in her apartment.
Okay.
She's doing her
Nice.
PhD she's doing her PhD here in Bangalore, so she wasn't keeping
really?
too well.
Where does she stay usually?
She's staying in Electronic City.
I mean, usually, where's she from? She's not living in Bangalore.
She's from Kerala.
Kerala. Oh, right, of course.
My cousin.
Right. Yeah.
So she's studying here in Bangalore University.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to convey her namaste to you and to let everyone know that she's very intelligent.
Your cousin does?
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, just because she says she's intelligent, it's not really proof. We need to give some evidence now.
My teacher wants an evidence, Parvati. She's giggling.
Actually, the person who says they're intelligent, you have to kind of wonder is. The really intelligent person will just be humble.
So I'm sure she's probably, she doesn't mean it, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
So Venerable, we'll just start in
So what are you guys
about
doing
1
today?
minute.
Sure, yeah. Where are we streaming also? You said we're streaming live.
We are streaming on, we are live on YouTube as well.
Okay. But you edit these before you put them on YouTube, before you upload them on YouTube, right?
Yes, Venerable.
Dilshad? Dilshad, why is the window behind you always closed? It's always closed every time.
It's not closed, it's open.
Is it open?
Yeah, these are the.
What's outside the window? Oh, I see, like that. Okay. Where are you, Dilshad?
In my hometown, Venerable, with my mom and dad.
Guntur.
Yeah, Guntur.
Guntur.
Yeah.
How's the weather there?
Very hot.
Is it very hot?
Last week, too much sunny. We are getting. It's too hot here.
Is it raining there?
It seems to be maybe.
Oh yeah. Oh good.
Now.
I turn the light on, do you think? So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday teaching series with Venerable Tenzin Legtsok. We are on part 7 of the topic Two Truths in Buddhism. So with that, I hand over the session to Legtsok. Venerable.
Okay, thank you, Shanti. Welcome,
Thank you.
everyone. So, yeah, let's start with a motivation and then a little meditation first today. So get comfortable where you are. So first, yeah, relax. Scan your body briefly to see if there's any tension or tightness. You're holding in any part of your body, any blocked energy, kind of release it. Breathe naturally, and let your body relax into your seat. So you're comfortable to meditate. And then focus your mind on an object of placement meditation, either on the conventional nature of your mind itself. It's the nature of being that which is clear and knowing, especially not on the sense consciousness, but on your mental consciousness or on your breath. So for a minute or two, focus your mind. So then, before we focus on generating a bodhicitta motivation, let's meditate on some of the things we've been going over in the past sessions, and especially how this analogy of a dream, everything is like a dream. So, especially in the context of the mind-only school, we've been talking the last couple sessions about how that is this analogy of everything being like a dream is the primary analogy or example of things for the mind-only school. But I mean, in general, a dream is an analogy for how things appear in a way that is not real, right? How things appear in one way, but they don't actually exist in that way, right? The way they actually, what they actually are, how they actually exist is something very different. Because when we're dreaming, you know, things appear as much more real than they actually are, right? You know, different people and places, sounds, tastes, you know, scenes, different scenes appear to our mind. And while we're dreaming, it seems like those things are real, but they're not just projections of our mind. But then when we wake up and the dream ends, we realize, oh, that was not real, right? So try to, yeah, let's take maybe 10 minutes or so and reflect on how things are like a dream. If you want, either just according to the mind-only school, or if you want, you can begin with, you know, the Great Exposition School, and then move up to the Sutra School, and then move up to the mind-only school, and so forth. But really try to look at your own experience, you know, in the present moment, now, and see, and try to really see, reflect deeply on how things are like a dream, how things appear in a way that's different from how they exist, how the way things appear is actually not reality, according to these different schools, or at least according to the mind-only school. So, especially related to the 6 different consciousnesses. These things are like a dream. So think, everything that appears to my eye, it's like seeing things in a dream. And then all the things I hear, all the sounds I hear, it's like hearing sounds in a dream. In the present moment, it's there, it appears, but it'll be gone. In the very next moment, it's changed, it's gone. And also the way things appear is actually not the way they exist. Remember, for the mind-only school, especially things that we see and hear, taste, touch, and smell, those things appear to exist separately from the sense consciousness that experiences them. But actually, all those appearances are actually part of that sense consciousness. They're one nature with that. Sorry, I should say they're one nature with that sense consciousness. They arise at the same time, they pass away at the same time. They arise from the same imprint as the sense consciousness. So then continue, and all the things I smell, it's like smelling things in a dream. All the things I taste, whatever tastes I experience, it's like tastes experienced in a dream. And then all the physical sensations in my body, it's like sensations I'm experiencing in a dream. And then even all the mental consciousness, all the thoughts we're having, or the memories, the judgments, the mental feelings. So it's like thoughts that arise in a dream. Yeah. So then, so trying to stay within this kind of awareness of everything being like a dream, we'll try to generate a bodhicitta motivation, go for refuge. So now imagine all sentient beings seated around you, as if in a dream, beginning with your mother of this life to your left, and all your female family and friends to your left and behind you, and then your father of this life to your right, and all your male family and friends to your right and behind you, as if in a dream. And then people who you find most antagonistic, seated directly in front of you, facing towards you, just like, demons in a dream. And all the other sentient beings that exist, all in human form, all the sentient beings of the 6 realms, from the hells up to the highest heavens, the formless realm. Imagine them all in human form, seated around you, as if you're surrounded by a crowd of sentient beings in a dream. So then reflect how all of these sentient beings are equal in wishing to have happiness and wishing to be free from suffering. And how they've all equally been to you, in relation to you, they've equally been friend, enemy, stranger, from life to life, from countless lives in the past until now. And now every happiness, every good fortune you've ever experienced, are experiencing now, or will experience in the future, even up to full enlightenment, nirvana and full enlightenment. All these have come about and will come about in the future, independent upon all of these other sentient beings. So thinking of their aspiration to have happiness and well-being, try to generate love for them, wishing for them to have happiness. And then thinking of the suffering they experience, suffering, the suffering of change, the pervasive compounding suffering that they experience, generate compassion, as if generating compassion in a dream. And then if you can, try to generate the aspiration that in order to free all sentient beings from suffering and lead them to the state of peerless happiness, of full enlightenment, I myself must quickly become a Buddha, become fully enlightened, having abandoned every fault and perfected every positive quality. And therefore, for that reason, I'm going to engage in this session on the 2 truths. And then if you like, visualize Shakyamuni Buddha in the space before you. And reflect how he represents the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, the Sangha jewel, the 3 jewels of refuge, or the 3 rare survivals. And reflect how they have the power, the ability to protect us and all sentient beings from the suffering of the lower realms, suffering of samsara, and lead us to the state of peerless enlightenment. So then we can go for refuge. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. With the 2 collections that I create by practicing giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. With the 2 collections that I create by practicing giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. With the 2 collections that I create by practicing giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, So we can stop there with the preliminary. So let's do you have any questions so far about anything? Otherwise, about anything up to the mind-only school. Otherwise, I'll continue with the middle way school. Okay, Archana.
Yeah, Venerable. So for mind-only school, there is no externality. Everything is a projection of the mind. So even our body is a projection of the mind, according to them.
True, yeah, yes.
Okay, only the mind is real. Everything else is a projection.
Basically, yeah, only the mind is real. Well, it depends what you mean by real. I mean,
As in truly
yeah,
exists.
well, no, I mean, truly existent is something else. For the mind-only school, all impermanent phenomena are truly existent, because truly existent means basically, I mean, let's see. Well, the mind-only school, they divide phenomena into three kinds of things. There's other powered phenomena, which is all impermanent things, right? And then there's ultimate truths, which is the selflessness of persons and the selflessness of phenomena. And then there's what's called kunda, like thoroughly imputed phenomena, which are the permanent things other than ultimate truths, right? Like uncompounded space. Or like one or many kind of general concepts. So for them, other powered phenomena, so all impermanent things, and ultimate truths are truly existent. Sorry, I got cut off.
Yeah, so what is the nature of mind according to them?
Well, I mean, the conventional nature of mind is still that it's, that which is clear and known. It's the same. But for them, I mean, for them, the direct perceiver that apprehends mind is the self-knowing,
Self-cognizing mind.
Self-cognizing direct perceiver, exactly. Self-cognizing direct perceiver. So that, our eye consciousness and the self-cognizing direct perceiver that directly apprehends it, I think they would assert that there is some kind of dualistic appearance there. So that mind is a conventional truth, for sure. And in that way, it's one nature with the direct perceiver that apprehends it, right? So in that way, it also doesn't have an external existence. Although when they negate external existence, they're mostly talking about the five kinds of objects of the five sense consciousness, right? It's mainly what we're talking about. So in a way, yeah, mind is more real than like external forms.
Yeah, saying truly existent is not correct, but
yeah, to say, I mean,
definition
it is truly existent. The mind is truly existent for the mind-only school, but that means something a little
different from pressing.
Yeah. Basically, it means that that the mind. Well, it's a little difficult to say. That it exists in the way it appears to the maybe to the mind, to the main mind that observes it, right? but that's true for all.
They have to do that because for them, the self-cognizing mind can never be wrong. Right? That is why they have to see.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's always valid. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then let's look at the well, yeah, let's look at the middle way school now. So the middle way school, there's two, right? There's autonomous middle way school, and then there's a consequentialist middle way school, right? So autonomous middle way school is, middle way is Madhyamaka, and autonomous is, I think, Svatantrika, Madhyamaka. Whereas consequentialist in Sanskrit would be Prasangika Madhyamaka. Right? So according to the middle way autonomous school, or the autonomous middle way school, you can say it either way. So first, let's look at their definition of the two truths. So they use a little bit. Well, here I took this. Well, anyway, this is a different way to translate the Tibetan term used. That's usually translated as conventional truth. It can also be translated as obscurational truth, or the truth for an obscured. Obscure means that it's what's true for an obscured mind. It means a mind that does not see emptiness. What's true in the face of that mind, right? So this is the same term used for all the schools, but here I took this definition I took from a different text, and that translator had used this term, obscurational truth. Some also use, I think, veiled truth, or something like that for this term, kunzuk tempa in Tibetan. Anyway, the definition of a conventional truth or an obscurational truth for the middle way autonomous school is that which abides in the class of objects to be realized by way of being together with dualistic appearance by a valid cognizer explicitly realizing it. Right, so it's very similar to the mind-only school definition above. Means so anything that abides in the class of objects. So it means it's part of the class of objects, part of the group of objects. So which are characterized by what? That to be realized by way of being together with dualistic appearance, right? So objects that are realized by way of being conjoined with dualistic appearance or having dualistic appearance. Remember above in the mind-only school, it said being together with dualistic appearance. So here it's basically saying the same thing. Objects which, a valid cognizer which explicitly realizes them, or which explicitly realizes them, is if that valid cognizer is conjoined with or together with dualistic appearance, then that object is an obscurational truth. Right. So take, for example, like a vase. So definitely a vase. I mean, for them, all impermanent phenomena here are obscurational truth or conventional truth. So how are like an impermanent phenomena like a vase or a phone or your laptop or the things that we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch? How are those things conjoined with dualistic appearance? Right? Basically, it's the same as the mind-only school here, because they follow. I mean, you can divide the autonomous middle way school into two: those that follow those that are similar to the mind-only school, and those that are similar to the sutra school. But the main one that we usually look at is those that are similar to the mind-only school, right? So then, for them, like take a vase or something that appears to our eye consciousness, something that we see. So then, visual objects, the main consciousness that observes them is the eye consciousness. So it's a direct cognizer. So like, say our computer screen or our laptop screen, our cell phone screen in front of us, then it's the valid cognizer that explicitly realizes it is our I consciousness. And so is that together with dualistic appearance? Yes, they would say, especially those who follow the mind-only school, they'd say it's together with the dualistic appearance, such that although it appears as something like a separate entity from our I consciousness, right? Whereas actually it's part of one entity, it's part of the same entity as our I consciousness. So therefore it has kind of dualistic appearance. Also, all permanent phenomena, other than selflessness of persons and selflessness of phenomena. So all permanent phenomena, the main valid cognizer explicitly realizing them is a conceptual consciousness, right? So conceptual consciousness always have dualistic appearance. One is because, in one way, because there's the appearance of the meaning generality of the object that appears to the conceptual consciousness. And that meaning generality, although it's not, say, like when we have a conceptual consciousness thinking of, say, thinking of a vase, then the appearing object of that conceptual consciousness is the meaning generality of vase, which means it's the negation of everything that's not vase, and it appears as if it is a vase, right? When it's actually not. So the meaning generality of vase, it appears to the concept thinking vase as if it is the vase when it's actually not. So that's one kind of dualistic appearance. But also, according to the autonomous middle way school, all conceptual consciousness have the appearance of the self of phenomena, right? Either they all have the appearance of the self of phenomena, of true existence, right? So they have this appearance of true existence, and that's another kind of dualistic appearance, right? Generally, for the if I recall correctly, for the autonomous middle way school of the sense consciousness, they're not mistaken. So to sense consciousness, sense consciousness don't have the appearance of true existence, right? So to our I consciousness that sees the computer, for example, the computer, it doesn't appear as if it's truly existent, right? The computer, yeah. So the self of phenomena and self of persons, they don't appear to the sense consciousness. But they do have the appearance of external existence, right? So in that way, they're conjoined with a dualistic appearance. So then, so again, so what fits here in this definition is all impermanent phenomena and all permanent phenomena other than things that are ultimate truths, right? And for the autonomous middle way school, what are ultimate truths? Is the selflessness of both the selflessness of phenomena and the selflessness of persons, right? So here for the autonomous middle way school, there's two different levels of both selflessness of phenomena and selflessness of persons, right? So selflessness of phenomena, there's a coarse and a subtle, and selflessness of person is also coarse and subtle, right? So for the autonomous middle way school, the coarse selflessness of, and so especially for the autonomous middle way school that follows the mind-only school. So this is like people like Shantarakshita, Bhaviviveka, maybe Haribhadra too, if I'm not mistaken. I can look here. I can look over here.
That one means Yogacharya, Venerable.
Yogacharya means is the mind-only school.
Oh, okay.
So the Svatantrika is autonomous, right? So there's Yogacharya Svatantrika and Sutra Svatantrika. There's two. Here, I'll show you. See here, there's a Sutra Middle Way Autonomous School and Yogic Middle Way Autonomous School. Svatantrika, Saltantrika, Svatantrika, Madhyamaka, and Yogacharya, Svatantrika, Madhyamaka. There's two. So the definitions of, examples of, of the Sutra Middle Way School are Bhava Viveka and Jnanagarbha. Whereas some examples of people who are yogic middle way autonomous are Shantarashita, Haribhadra, and Kamalashila. Right? So yeah, anyway, maybe. So for them, oh yeah, I was going to say, so there's two selflessness of phenomena, a coarse and a subtle, right? So the coarse selflessness of phenomena for the yogic middle way autonomous school, right? The coarse selflessness of phenomena is just the same as what the mind-only school selflessness of phenomena. The emptiness of the mind and the object of that mind being of separate entities or separate substances, right? So remember, like the eye consciousness and the computer screen that the eye consciousness sees, they're empty of being separate entities or separate substances. They're part of the same thing, right? They're part of the same substance. And that the computer screen that we see is one nature with the eye consciousness that sees that. So that emptiness is a selflessness of phenomena, but it's coarse selflessness of phenomena, because the yogic middle way autonomous school, they posit a more subtle selflessness of phenomena. So this is new, right? This we haven't looked at before. So that's what I wrote the definition of it out here. So it's this. So I'll try to explain this definition. So this is very important because this is their, this shows their, according to Tsongkhapa, this is their object of negation for the autonomous middle way school. So for them, selflessness of phenomena means a phenomena, so this applies to all phenomena, being empty of both, so there's two parts. So being empty of both, not posited by the power of an awareness which is free from harm. Right, so first of all, an awareness which is free from harm means an awareness which is valid, basically. It's not mistaken, right? An unmistaken awareness. Because an awareness which is mistaken, it can be harmed, right? So think about, like, when you're sitting in a bus or a train, and all of a sudden the bus or the train next to you starts moving, and you feel like you're moving, right? So at first you feel like, oh, my bus or my train has started to move. But then when you look out the other window, you see, oh, actually, and you see something that's still, you see, oh, actually, my bus or train is not moving. Right? So that first perception that, oh, my bus or train is moving, that's an awareness that can be harmed, right? Because it's not valid. It makes a mistake with regard to something. Or like when we, I don't know, when we're little kids and we see a rainbow in the distance and we think that if we walk towards it, we'll get closer to it and we can touch it or something. So if we keep walking towards the rainbow, eventually we find it just keeps, it seems like it stays the same distance away. We don't get any closer to it. And actually we can't touch it, right? Gradually we discover. So that perception that we have when we're a kid, that if we walk, towards the rainbow, we can get closer to it and touch it, is mistaken. It's harmed later on by experience. It's harmed. Or like seeing a mirage and thinking that there's water there, then walking towards the water, then when we actually get close to that place where it looked like there was water, we see that actually there is no water there, right? So those are all mistaken consciousness that can be harmed. So here in their definition, they're talking about So for the, but maybe before I look at the definition again. So for the autonomous middle way school, then all phenomena are posited through the force of an awareness that cannot be harmed, right? So that is it's a valid or an unmistaken awareness, right? So all phenomena that exist, they don't exist from their own side solely. They're posited by an unmistaken consciousness or a valid consciousness. But they also exist from their own side, right? I mean, this is the essential thing for the autonomous middle way school is nothing exists for them. They negate true existence, right? So for them, what does true existence means? Basically, is that things exist solely from their own side, right? Completely from their own side. But so for them, nothing exists, completely from the side of the object, completely from its own side. Everything exists as being posited through the force of an awareness which perceives it in an unmistaken way, right? But there also has to be some degree of existence from the side of the object. So there's this kind of two-part, the way things exist kind of has two parts. On the one hand, things are posited by an unmistaken awareness, but on the other hand, the object also has to have some degree of, or some part of existence from the side of the object. So that is kind of reflected here in this. So their definition of the selflessness of phenomena is that all phenomena is emptiness of being, both not posited by the power of an awareness which is free from harm, right? So it means that, if we grasp at things as being not posited by the power of an awareness which is free from harm or an unmistaken awareness, then we're grasping at the self of phenomena, right? So things, selflessness of phenomena if they're not being that, So it's a little bit confusing here, the way to word the definition, because it's like a double negative or triple negative even, I'm not sure. All right, so on the one hand, but it's easier to think about it in positive terms, right? On the one hand, everything is posited by the power of an awareness which is free from harm. So so things are empty of not being that, in short, right? And also things are empty of being established from the side of their own uncommon mode of abiding, right? So this being established. So again, what they're refuting is, mainly what they're refuting is things being established from the side of their own uncommon mode of abiding. So what does that mean? It means like, basically it means like when we see the computer or the phone in front of us, that phone exists as, or that computer exists as a computer completely from the side of the object, independent of anything else, right? And especially independent of, independent of parts, independent of causes and conditions. So for them, I mean, the computer does exist independence upon its parts, especially. It exists independence upon causes and conditions. So therefore it doesn't, and then also it exists independence upon a mind which labels computer, right? But here we have to distinguish between the autonomous middle way school and the consequentialist middle way school, right? So otherwise we get confused easily. So what's the difference between these two? Is that for the consequentialist middle way school, when you analyze to look like, well, is there an actual computer there? When I search for the computer, I mean, the computer, for both of them, the computer is labeled upon its parts, right? There's the keyboard, there's the motherboard, there's the case, there's the battery, the fan, the screen, the cover, all those things, all those different parts of the computer are there. And the computer exists by being labeled upon those parts. But for the consequentialist middle way school, when you search for a computer within those parts, you can't find anything to point to and say, that is the computer. When Tanidapa Dadan Sevetse Negi Meba. So, when you search for that which is the object of the term computer, you can't find it separate from its collection of parts or its basis of imputation. And you can't find it anywhere within that collection of parts. And therefore, the computer you cannot find, you cannot find the conventional computer within its basis of parts, and you cannot find a computer that exists somehow independently from its parts, from the side of the object at all. Whereas for the autonomous middle way school, you can find, when you look for the object when you look for the thing which is an object of the term computer, you have to be able to find something, right? You can find something from the side of the object, right? So that's where they're different. For the consequentialist middle way school, when you search for, maybe it's easier for me to explain if we look at the person, right? Because there it's very clear. So for the consequentialist middle way school, we have the term person, or say I, the person. So when I look for the thing that term is talking about, what it refers to, I, the person, the basis for imputation of me, the person, is my body and mind. So they agree that the person is labeled upon their collection of parts, their body and mind. But where they disagree is that when you look for the actual person, you can find something or not, right? So the consequentialist school says when you look for the actual person, of course you cannot find it outside of the basis of imputation, meaning outside of that body and mind or outside of the aggregates. You cannot find the person there. But even when you look within the basis of imputation, within the body and mind, you cannot find that person anywhere within the body. You cannot find that person anywhere within the mind. Therefore, the person is merely imputed by the mind, meaning it's imputed by the mind, and there's no existence of person from the side of the object or from the side of the parts or from the side of the basis of imputation. There's no existence at all from the side. All the existence comes from the side of the mind which imputes, right? But so that's the consequentialist middle way school. So now for the autonomous middle way school, what they're saying is that yes, the person is imputed upon the collection of body and mind, upon the parts, but there has to be something existing from the side of the object. It means there has to be something existing from the side of the basis of imputation. Otherwise, you cannot say the person exists. So when you search within the body and mind, you have to be able to find something that is a person from its own side in some part, right? So for the autonomous middle way school, they say that the stream of the mental consciousness is a substantially existent person, right? They say that the stream of mental consciousness, which goes from life to life, right? So there's so sense consciousness. They break down. When the body breaks down, then they kind of cease to exist. But our mental consciousness, our very subtle mental consciousness, it goes in an unbroken stream from life to life. So for the autonomous middle way school, that is the essential call that. It's not truly existent because it is also something that's imputed upon this basis of imputation. But there is some degree of existence from the side of the person in that way. So I'm a little difficult with talk about the computer because I'm not sure what they would say, what within the computer, like, how is it that the computer has some existence from its own side? right? But they would say, you know, something like the computer has like computerness. Of course, we label it upon, you know, the collection of parts, but there is, you know, something from the side of the computer that makes it a computer apart from just our concept. It's not just a computer just because we label it, you know, as a computer. The computer doesn't exist solely from the side of the mind that labels computer. Of course, there has to be that, but there also has to be something from the side of the object, you know, that it's computerness that makes it a computer. So they'd probably say something like, you know, because this object, you know, it fulfills the definition of a computer, you know, because it has a motherboard, it has a battery, it has a screen, it has, you know, a keyboard, it has a case, and it, you know, it has, so that's not like the hardware, and then it has software. So because it performs the functions that a computer should perform, right? So we can make a definition for a computer, right? That it has all these different parts and it has to perform this and this kind of function. And whatever does that is a computer. Whatever doesn't fulfill those characteristics is not a computer. So they'll probably say like something like, because this object performs all those kind of functions, then to that degree, from the side of the object, it is a computer. But, you know, who is it that's determined that that's what a computer is the concept computer, right? And what is it that's aware that this, you know, this object fulfills those functions is also, you know, there's a mind which experiences that. So there's this dual kind of function from the side of the mind. We have to, you know, if nobody experiences this thing as performing the function of the computer, then it doesn't function as a computer. But also from the side of the object, if the object doesn't actually possess the characteristics that a computer should possess, then you can't say it's a computer, right? So it's kind of from both sides. So that's why, again, in their definition of ultimate, in their definition of selfless phenomena, so their object of negation is the opposite of what's being stated in this definition, right? So their object of negation is something that is not posited by the power of an awareness free from harm and is established from the side of its own uncommon mode of abiding, right? So something that's established from its own uncommon mode of abiding. That means it's established through the force of its own characteristics alone, right? Being established from its own uncommon mode of abiding means it's established through the force of the qualities of that thing. Means the computer is a computer, you know, totally separate from any concept of computer, right? And you could even say totally separate from parts, totally separate from causes and conditions. So they're saying the computer is not that. It's not established from the side of its own uncommon mode of abiding. And then in addition, so what else are they refuting? That things are not posited by the power of an awareness which is free from harm. So they're not, so they're refuting. So for them, one part, the object of negation has two parts. On the one hand, the object of negation is something that's not posited by the power of an awareness which is free from harm, or by the power of a mistaken awareness. So they're refuting that. So what that means is that they're saying everything is posited by an unmistaken awareness, right? And and then nothing exists by its own uncommon mode of abiding from its own side. So what they do say is like I was just saying before, maybe there's no point in me repeating again and again, this confusing one. Yeah, but I was saying, so they have, I should have actually found the chart for you all. Yeah, so there's a, so the subtle selfless phenomena is this, and then the core selfless phenomena is what the mind-only school posit as a selfless phenomena. And then they have the selflessness of person is the same as the super score. The lack of, or the voidness of a, what is it? self-sufficient, substantially existent person. That's the selflessness of person. I think I said they have a gross and a subtle selflessness of person, but actually that's not true. I think they only have that one selflessness of person. So those three, the coarse selflessness, or the selflessness of person, and then the coarse and the gross selflessness of phenomena, those are ultimate truths, right? So those are, so what is the definition of ultimate truth? An object to be realized by way of vanished dualistic appearance by a direct valid cognizer, explicitly realizing it, that is not to be realized in the aspect of an affirmative phenomenon. Okay, so they add this thing. So remember, so what is an ultimate truth for them are, or examples of an ultimate truth, remember, are the the coarse and subtle selflessness of phenomena and the selflessness of person. So what is the direct valid cognizer explicitly realizing those things is a yogic direct perceiver, right? So the yogic direct perceiver that directly realizes each of those things, it has vanished dualistic appearance. It means there's no sense of separateness from the object, and there's no appearance of so for the yogic direct perceiver perceiving the selflessness of person, there's no longer an appearance of a self of person anymore, right? That appearance has totally disappeared. And for the yogic direct perceiver perceiving the gross or the coarse or the subtle selflessness phenomena, there's no longer an appearance of that kind of things existing in those ways, like things existing either as a separate entity from the mind perceiving them, or things existing as being not posited through the force of an unmistaken awareness and having their own uncommon mode of abiding, right? So that kind of appearance is totally cleared away. Okay. And then just one more thing to point out here before I ask for your questions is that, I mean, so for the autonomous middle way school here, then okay, so to be a conventional truth, an obscurational truth, and an ultimate truth, they're mutually exclusive. There's nothing is both of those, right? So if something is an obscurational truth or a conventional truth, it's definitely not an ultimate truth. If something is an ultimate truth, it's not a conventional truth. And that's true for the middle way school as well. And it's true for the consequential school as well. But while nothing can be a conventional, and I mean, that's true for all of the schools, actually. The Great Exposition School, the Sutra School, you know, and the mind-only school, middle way school, for all of them, if something is a conventional truth, it's not an ultimate truth. If something is an ultimate truth, it's not a conventional truth. Those two are mutually exclusive. But for the middle way school, for the mind-only school and the middle way school, both of the middle way schools, right? Then, like, one object possesses characteristics. One object is a basis for both truths, right? So it means like this. What does that mean? Like, so our computer that's in front of us, that's a conventional truth, right? But the computer has an ultimate truth, right? So there's a difference. Like, you know, like we are a person, but we have a head, right? We're not our head. Our head is not us, but our head is something that we have, right? So we're not a head, we're a person, but we have a head, right? So kind of like that. Our computer is a conventional truth. It's not an ultimate truth. But our computer has an ultimate, an ultimate nature is maybe a more easy way to say it. Because like our computer is free of being truly existent, right? And it's empty. So our computer's emptiness of true existence is the computer's ultimate nature, you can say. Or it's an ultimate truth that is part of the computer. Maybe it's easier to think of it like that. So like we're not our head is not us, but we have a head, and our head is part of us, right? So like that, our computer is not an ultimate truth, but there is an ultimate truth which is part of our computer. And that's the same for everything that's a conventional truth. If you think about your table or the house or the walls or you as a person, so there is an ultimate truth which is part of us as a person, right? So what is that? It's our emptiness of, you know, our being empty of the self of persons, and our being empty of the self of phenomena, either the coarse self of phenomena or the subtle self of phenomena, right? So remember, I mean, there's these, for the autonomous middle way school, there's these three ultimate truths: the selflessness of person, and then the two selflessness of phenomena. So we don't possess any of those, right? I mean, sorry, all of those three ultimate truths we do possess all of those. We're free of being a self of persons. So we possess a selflessness of person, an emptiness of the self of person. And that's part of us, right? That truth is part of us. And then we're free of, so for the yogic autonomous middle way school, we're free of being something separate from the mind that apprehends us, right? So we have a mind that apprehends us, and we are one entity with that mind. So we're free of having basic external reality, right? And that is our coarse selflessness of phenomena. So that our coarse selflessness of phenomena is part of us, and that is an ultimate truth. And then we're free of basically being truly existent. Or another way to, I mean, a more complex way to say that, I was just explaining earlier, is we're free of not being posited by the force of an unmistaken awareness and existing, let's see, being established as our own uncommon mode of abiding, right? So we don't have that, right? That's true existence, in short. That means true existence. So we're not truly existent. And that being empty of being truly existent is part of us. I mean, a kind of simpler way to think about it is like, you know, are we cats and dogs? No, we're not cats and dogs. We're human beings, right? Whoever's a human being, they're not a cat and they're not a dog, right? So our being empty, so we have an emptiness of being a cat. And that emptiness of being a cat is part of us, right? We're empty of being a dog. That not being a dog is part of what we are. I mean, we are that. That's part of what we are as a person, right? So it's like, you know, but that phenomena, like not being a cat, not being a dog, I mean, it's like, we are not that phenomena. That phenomena is not us, yet that phenomena is like, you know, there's a not being a cat, not being a dog, which is part of us. Something like that, that's part of our nature in a way. So for the middle way school, then everything that exists, let me see if this is right. Well, definitely all conventional phenomena, they have an ultimate nature, right? Because they have this you know, selflessness. They have this selfless nature that's part of them, and that selflessness is an ultimate truth, right? And it's the same for the mind-only school. You know, all conventional phenomena, they have you know, selflessness of phenomena, which is part of them. But that's different. But so for the Sutra school and the Great Exposition school, that's totally different. That's it's not like that, right? Because if something is an ultimate truth, it's an impermanent phenomena. Something is a conventional truth, it's a permanent phenomena. And there's not, you know, a permanent phenomena that's part of an impermanent phenomena. basically. And then, yeah, anyway, the main thing to understand here is that basically for the middle way school, all phenomena possess these two natures, an ultimate nature and a conventional nature. Okay, now if you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, thank you for that talk, Venerable. I was wondering about, this is a little bit off topic, but boredom, and what is it a sign of, and is it a good thing or is it a negative thing? And boredom versus anxiety, which one is better? Because I think we can sometimes oscillate between these two states of either feeling anxious or
Okay,
bored.
boredom. Oh yeah, your connection was cutting out there at the end, or mine. I'm not sure, but I'll answer the first part of your question first.
Okay.
So
thank
boredom,
you.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I think boredom.
Yeah.
Generally, I think it's it's kind of it's not 100% clear. I mean, I haven't heard it talked about much. Generally, it's thought of as negative, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just a general sense of boredom, like with everything, is definitely harmful, right?
Yeah.
Because it undermines your enthusiasm to do anything.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
So,
yeah.
but you know, generally we talk about, like, if you're, especially with virtuous activities,
Yeah.
you know, like helping other people, if you feel bored with those things, of course, that's obviously negative because it inhibits you from being productive and doing things which are beneficial to others or beneficial to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a kind of laziness. Actually, that's where boredom really comes up in Buddha's teachings is in laziness. There's three kinds of laziness. And one kind of laziness is just like not wanting to do anything, just kind of sitting around and not doing anything. So that comes with a sense of boredom. So, you know, an antidote to boredom is trying to find meaning in life, you know, and relate that to your daily activities. Like,
Right.
why is it important for me to do, you know, the things that I need to do every day? How does that relate to my long-term goals and my highest aspirations, you know, on up to full enlightenment? Not to mention benefiting other sentient beings, not to mention, you know, being a good person, or just, you know, having a happy life, this life, having happy future lives. We have to think of those long-term goals that we desire and then relate them back to what we're doing, you know, every hour of every day. And thereby generate a sense of, you know, importance, how important our life is, how fortunate it is. You know, gratitude can help overcome boredom.
Okay. So I'm guessing that you don't think that boredom can be a good thing, or like that maybe when we just like experience a state of boredom after maybe have doing a lot of work or doing something very intense, and then suddenly you just feel very bored and you don't have anything to fill that in with. And
But that's okay, I think. You know, sometimes I mean that's okay, because we do have to know when we need to rest. You know, we might have, like you said, like a period of a lot of work, so really busy. Maybe you're just interacting with a lot more people than you really are comfortable with, or, you know, you get tired of interacting with a lot of people and you just need space to like be alone, not have to do anything.
Yeah.
You can just rest and relax. That's not, I wouldn't, I mean, and maybe you don't feel like doing anything. You feel like you need to just do nothing. I wouldn't say that's boredom. That's more like just recognizing your need for relaxing.
Okay, this does help. I think this is exactly hitting the nail on the head, which is that I sometimes struggle between like acknowledging that that is the space I'm in, or that maybe I'm actually in a state of boredom and foregoing doing better, more productive things, because it's hard to find how to know how to judge that effectively. Essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the case. We can see if we never stop pushing ourselves to do something that is, you know, quote unquote productive, then it leads to problems. Like we get, you know, we get anxious, we get tired, we get irritable, we get unhappy. You know, so we have to recognize that. Even, you know, Shantideva in his Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, You know, he goes through this whole list of all these practices, you know, the way bodhisattvas should use their time in very effective ways, not waste time. But then he says also, but when you get tired, you need to recognize that you need to relax and just you know, stop and look around and enjoy things and rest, and you know, nourish your body. So
true.
we have to be wise like that.
Okay,
But you know,
cool.
you were saying, is there any? I mean, that's one. I wouldn't call that boredom though. But I was thinking more of like, you know, an instance of boredom that maybe is not non-virtuous would be, you know, like with something, you know, being bored with an activity that clearly is a waste of time. You know, like playing video games, you know, or watching, I don't know, really kind of, I don't know, disturbing movies, or listening to some idle gossip, you know, some friends that are just talking about rubbish, just gossiping. In those situations, if you feel bored, I think it's more like, you know, you can have a recognition that this is just a total waste of time, and it's not good for anybody. And then you might feel bored with that. And that's not a bad thing. That's probably a good sign, actually. That, you know, you have a sense that you want to use your time in a meaningful and valuable way, and that you're in this situation where it seems like you can't do that, no, and you kind of feel bored with that situation. That's maybe not a bad kind of boredom.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Subhashini, yes, what's your question?
Yeah, you were talking of the different schools, and the word swatantrika, the word swatantra itself means independent, which means it is different. And when you talked about the emptiness, the A of the ultimate truth, that it is empty, but yet it has something distinctive about it.
Yes.
And that,
true.
am I correct?
Yes.
So that again defines or describes the word swatantra, which is independent, which means it has a independence of its own while describing emptiness.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, actually, there's a specific reason for that name. It's because it's because the way they assert that reasoning works. That they assert that when you give a reason, a proof for something, you know, being a certain way, that the power of the proof comes from basically the side of the object. You know, that so the reason given to prove something, it has an ability to prove what you're trying to prove, as that's kind of an objective reality that it has. So they believe that there's kind of objective reasons to prove things, irregardless of what you know, what either party in the kind of debate thinks. So that's, but it does relate to what you're saying, that they believe that there is something, you know, that has some kind of independent existence from the side of the object. You know, it does relate back to that. That's true.
Like you gave the example of the head, which is distinctive to an individual. So there is something which is independent, and therefore it is classified as swatantrika, isn't it?
Basically, yes. Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Or Sakina, did you have a second part of a question? Or any of you others have questions?
Sorry. Hi. Yeah. I guess you kind of answered it, but I was just asking about I guess anxiety and boredom being two parts of the same spectrum, where it's like we're either somewhere like super anxious or just like super like bored. And sometimes boredom can feel like welcome because it's like not anxiety, but yeah, so I think that was why I was wondering, maybe I should just be more proud of my boredom, or perhaps perhaps maybe it's a sign that there's something missing or lacking. So I think, I think your answer about like there just being more balanced, and I think being more mindful of the fact that there is some larger balance going on and that boredom has its place is kind of a useful framework.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of want to avoid extremes, being too anxious and too hyped up on the one hand, and also you want to avoid just being totally inactive, and totally, spacing out on the other hand, right?
Yeah.
So even when you're feeling bored and you feel like you need to relax, it shouldn't be that, you don't want to just see that as like satisfying in and of itself. Like we need to relax in order that we can keep doing some productive things in the future, right?
Okay.
It's not that, because we can easily just become attached to just sitting around and doing nothing.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's going to be, that becomes destructive, right?
It's a
So
slippery
even when we're
slope.
relaxing, we need to recognize, well, this is also part of what I need to do in order to, continue with my virtuous activities.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And because I've read some articles as well, this makes sense about how boredom can lead to creativity, or boredom is actually, like a great, like these moments of boredom are moments where we shouldn't, go reach for something else to do, but rather like sit with the boredom, or
Yeah.
So I've heard that is,
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
It's
okay.
true. No, yeah, we need to just learn to be
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't call it boredom, but just be inactive, learn to be comfortable with just not doing anything, sometimes.
Okay. So basically you're speaking of a larger balance of just like, having like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, especially in our modern culture, I mean, especially through the influence, I think, of Western culture, we get so attached to activity. It's like if we're active and doing something, that is good. If we're
Even
not doing anything in any given moment, that is bad.
Yeah.
So we easily like feel guilty about just relaxing and not doing anything, even for a few minutes or a few hours or a few days, when actually it's kind of, I mean, like you said, that actually can provide a space to become in touch with parts of ourselves that we don't not in touch with, to be more open to just spending time being aware of other people or other things that we might overlook if we're just focused on doing what we think we should be doing every moment, So I know, like Thich Nhat Hanh, this famous Buddhist teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who has lived in Plum Village in France for years, teaches a lot of foreign students. I think he talks about how he sees in the monastery where he is that the Westerners are very attached to being active and doing things all the time, whereas the Asians are much more comfortable with just sitting around not doing anything for a couple of hours a day, but through that they have good conversations with each other. They get to know each other or get to know other people better. So definitely not doing things sometimes can create space for creativity and coming in touch with people and things that we might not otherwise connect with.
Thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks.
Okay. I think our time is up now. Oh, you have a question, Sagar? Okay.
Yeah. The first question. How does Prasangika Madhyamika assert a quantum of energy with every moment of consciousness?
No, they don't specifically make that assertion.
Or they don't?
No. Not that they don't reject that, but they
Okay,
also don't talk about that. So what's your second question?
Because then, yeah. So the second part was not the question. It was related to the Sutra school. So this is what I was trying to drive at, that if the Sutra school posits reality or the ultimate truth, as that which can be posited by mere imputation and says that is what it is. I mean, they're not imputation. What they're talking of is that you have a computer in front of you, right? You have a computer in front of you or a mobile, I don't know what you're using.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're using a computer, right?
A computer.
Yeah. So if that is not
I
a
have a
computer,
computer.
then what is it?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, if that, yeah. So if that is not a computer, then what is it? You cannot posit it to be anything else other than a computer. So that is reality. And emptiness of that is purely fictional. It's some whiff of the mind, and obviously it is conventional. That emptiness of any thing is purely imaginative. The computer in front of you is a computer. You cannot say it's a bird. You cannot say it is that.
Okay, second. I have to go, actually. Someone's waiting for me outside. But yeah, I mean, it's a computer. Nobody's saying it's not a computer. That's no problem. We can talk more about it next session, Saga, okay? Your connection's cutting out too.
Right, okay.
Okay, let's dedicate briefly. Yeah, by whatever merit we've created, may all sentient beings be free from every form of suffering, have every happiness up to full enlightenment. May the Buddha Dharma spread everywhere and flourish in the world. May our gurus have long and stable lives, and may Chogar Sumling continue to flourish and offer the Dharma to countless sentient beings. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shanti. Thank you, everyone. Okay, bye-bye. I'm gonna take off.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable.